Hey, Autoimmune Warriors, welcome to the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast. I am so fired up for you to be here. If you're navigating life with an autoimmune condition, you're in the right place. I am your host, Des, and I am not just a podcaster. I am right here in the trenches with you as a fellow autoimmune warrior. We're diving into real, uplifting stories and some seriously smart expert tips and simple lifestyle tweaks that can make a difference in how we feel day to day. Now, I've got to give a huge shout out to my amazing listeners. You're the heartbeat of this podcast, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in. If you're loving the vibes, here is how you can keep the love flowing. Drop a rating on Spotify, share a quick review on Apple, or pass this episode along to a warrior buddy who can use a boost of hope. Here are some patients that are killing it for our community. Workers with Autoimmune Ailments Alliance. These folks are fighting the good fight for students and workers like us with autoimmune conditions. Want to get involved or learn more? Swing by WAAA.org. They'll love to have you. Leap Cure. They're all about hooking up patients with cutting-edge clinical trials and putting our voices front and center. Check them out at leapcure.com. Adapt Naturals by Chris Kresser. They offer nutrient-packed supplements based on science. Snag 20% off your first order with my code DEZ, D-E-Z, at Adapt Naturals. From my heart to yours, I'm sending you nothing but love and good vibes. Let's dive in together. All right, welcome so much, all my listeners. I have Alison, or known as Food by Mars. She is a nutritional therapy practitioner and cookbook author of the Paleo Gut Healing Cookbook and founder of the In Tune Method program. Alison has experienced firsthand the healing power of food, and she used it to manage her Hashimoto's thyroiditis and PCOS. She believes in your healing journey with real food, and it could be stress-free, filled with joy, flavor, and her content is here to help. So if you have any questions, subscribe to her newsletter, and you'll get a free 20-minute Paleo AIP meal prep program. So thank you so much, Alison.
Pleasure. Thanks
I
for having me.
love your work. Before we get into your program, would you mind just starting from the beginning and talk about your journey with Hashimoto's and PCOS?
Yeah. And thank you so much for that, by the way. I'm just excited to be here and be with our autoimmune fam because I think, like you and I were mentioning before we hit record, there's so much we want to bring to it and talk about the mindset piece. So, um, it started for me. I mean, I think a lot of us, right? It was always a snowball since we were really young because these things don't really happen overnight. They're really building up in the body. And I think for a long time growing up, I just always normalized that, oh, I have a painful period. And even my mom would be like, yep, we just have painful periods. Like, welcome, you're initiated into, into this.
Womanhood.
Literally, like, yeah, but then when I was really going through it and I was like, oh my God, I have to stay home from school 2 days out of every single month. And I'm in just incredible pain. Like I can't do anything. And that was just my life. And I had to accept it since I was 13, basically. And, other things that our families will normalize up. Like, yeah, we're always like constipated. We're always this, we're always, we get sensitive to foods. And it was just sort of this thing that was normalized because nobody else had an answer, right? We were just always told like, take pain meds or do whatever. There was never any kind of empowerment from the practitioners that we were seeing or anything to say like, you might be able to turn some of this around with some dietary and lifestyle shifts. Go figure. So it really started from childhood, but where things really kicked up, I was put on the birth control pill because of that painful period when I was 18. There was just no other option.
That so often. Yes.
Yes. And look, it really helped. I could actually function. But we know that it is a big fat Band-Aid. And in the interim, it is depleting our body of essential vitamins and minerals. And because we are sort of losing time on figuring out what the root cause of the issues were, it's now being worsened under the Band-Aid a lot of times. So I was on the pill for 10 years, got married, came off of it because I'm like, cool, maybe I'll have kids in a few years or something. Let me like prepare my body. My period should be fixed, quote unquote, right? That's what I was told by my gyno. No, it came back with a vengeance, just as bad, if not worse, than what I remembered. And things just really expedited from there. So that was my trigger for autoimmune because my hair started falling out. I lost 75% of it. It felt like that was over. That really felt very, very drastic to me. And the doctors were just like, oh, just go back on the pill then. I was like, wait a minute. I don't need to be a rocket scientist to clearly see, because I had no real, health or nutrition background at that point. I was climbing the corporate ladder in New York City. I was not, really into any of this. And other than just, going to the gym and trying to eat salads, but when I heard that, I was just like, wait, but that doesn't make sense. Clearly the pill was a big problem here. And me never figuring out what was wrong with me to begin with was a real problem. So that's what really started everything. I couldn't avoid the fact that I was like going bald at age 27 for no explainable reason. And I just started getting angry and realizing no one was going to come and save me and that I was going to have to do something about it. And I was going to the top, because even my mom was like, check your thyroid. This seems like thyroid related. And I remember going to the top endocrinologist in New York City, at NYU, at Columbia, and they were like, no, you're not fat. You're fine. That's what I was told. It's not your thyroid. Literally, like that's what I was told.
Wow.
I was told, oh, maybe you're just stressed and that's why you're losing your hair. They were not testing me appropriately. They were just doing the bare minimum, like TSH, maybe a T4. And it was just kind of going under the Western medicine radar. For reference ranges, which I'm sure we hear this a lot, right, from people. And so I just had to pull myself up and say, okay, you're going back to school. You're going to change like this is changing I'm looking around, my family's sick. I'm sick. I'm like, this is not okay. And I need to figure this out. And that's what started all the things 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And look at your hair now. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. It was not an overnight process, but once you really support your body's foundations, it will do so much heavy lifting. It is a very welcomed change by the body, which, it took me a while to figure it out. But once I did, it was like, okay, great. Things are reversing. I was able to put Hashimoto's into remission, the PCOS. I was able to have 2 healthy babies, 2 healthy pregnancies, which between the Hashimoto's and the PCOS, I was repeatedly told, this is going to be really hard for you. Do you want to consider IVF? Like I was just immediately told that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot tougher. Had I not started to realize and change and reverse a lot of these things. So yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. And congratulations on that curiosity, because it all started with that question of, I wonder if the birth control is causing the problem or if, what is really going on with my body.
Yeah.
Because the birth control is not helping, or it's just that Band-Aid, And with this, you work with AIP and you work with food. So I know it could be so overwhelming. I've tried the AIP and I don't think I lasted, 30, 45 days. And just like, it's overwhelming.
Yes.
Because you're like, really, what am I going to eat? All my favorite
Exactly.
foods. It's just frustrating. What advice would you give someone just starting on this journey to make them feel more, stress free and, like you said, more joy, more flavor to, as you described?
Yeah. So AIP and dietary shifts in general, or rather not dietary shifts, but elimination diets, are one tool in the, let's say, holistic which just means the word whole. That's all it means. It doesn't mean crunchy or alternative. It just means looking at you as a whole person. Crazy. But it is one tool in that holistic toolkit. And so something I know you and I were just talking about is wanting to leave it in that one place, right? And something I will always say on Instagram and stuff is like, we don't overcorrect with diet here, guys. We are not trying to overcorrect. It does its part, and then we move on and we got to do other stuff. But I would say when I was going along in the process and I was really trying to, especially get inflammation under control, there were clearly food sensitivities happening for you. I was getting skin rashes and all these gut issues. So it was already hard to eat the way that I was, trying to eat healthy, trying to eat whole foods, doing my best, with mainstream advice. But then, yeah, you kind of open this can of worms with elimination diets. And I was going back to school for nutrition. So I was really learning about a lot of diets, like more than the average person should ever want to almost. And with each new lesson, or I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. Oh, that's the one. Oh, let me try that one. And I figured out pretty quickly, like, this is crazy. This is like just too much. And I need to find a decent balance here. That's, yes, it's going to heal my body and all the things, but it can't stress me out. So kind of like how you said, you kind of start to realize, like, what can I eat here? And then that does become a stress, and that's problematic. That causes inflammation. That actually shuts down digestion when we are stressed out by every bite of food. So the way that I really like to bring more joy, more flavor, and really more neutrality, because even if you're a person who's like, I don't care that much about food, but I don't want to be stressed out by it. Or, I might not be Martha Stewart in the kitchen, but I clearly have to cook now. How do I do that? I just like to say, like, let's get it to a more peaceful place by understanding what we absolutely can enjoy a lot of, and not immediately going to the side of the list of like, I can't have this, because that's naturally what our brains will do. If you're presented with like a red and a green, it's going to go to the red of like, oh, avoid this at all costs because this could be poison to me. That's what our primal brain is really doing, for good reason. But then that's where we get stuck in the restriction and negativity. And it's like, oh my God, I can't even eat anything. And no one's going to last very well on that. And then the other thing is, we don't want to stay on an elimination diet too long. It is very much a temporary tool and can be another Band-Aid, believe it or not, when it's used in isolation, because the idea is it should be alleviating, the symptoms, some inflammation, all that stuff, while we do work to heal the gut, heal our body, so that we can reintroduce foods. Because, as someone who tried AIP, the last 2 phases are all about reintroduction and maintenance, which people never get to that phase. Yeah. I've worked with hundreds of women and they all say exactly what you did. It's just constantly like, I tried it. Yeah, I felt a little better, but like, I couldn't live like that. That was crazy. And I quote unquote failed at reintroductions. Either it was too lengthy and, there's like a lot of steps and all the things and no one could really keep up with that, or they didn't know if something was causing a reaction, or they were reacting a lot. And so all of those are really indications of like more healing at a root cause level really needs to be done. And we can't just keep overcorrecting with this Band-Aid making you feel worse and worse about food. The other thing is just going to be cooking delicious food. I think that's always going to be a good way to bring a little more joy and neutrality to it. So I have lots of free recipes on my blog, but I also have meal plans, and, we really guide our clients. And it's something I talk a lot about on Instagram, of just like hacks and tips and things to make the food you're currently eating just a little bit gut healthier for you. It doesn't have to be about following this rigid elimination diet forever. I certainly never recommend that. And, similar to you, after I did, I think probably 90 days of AIP, and I was like, oh God, I'm done. I am done. I've enjoyed some new recipes that I've made from it. I will keep those in rotation, but I am not here to be tiptoeing around every nightshade and nut and this and that. It's just, I can't live without eggs. Like,
yeah,
we're talking about healthy whole foods here that also are giving the body a lot. We can't just be fearful of all these things. And then the other issue that I'll often see is like, we'll get more food sensitivities on these elimination diets. So, if you're someone who's listening to this and that resonates, it's because we're using a Band-Aid to overcorrect with, without having really healed the core issue of why we have food sensitivities to begin with. So that's, a really big thing to gain from it, of like, okay, if I embark on something like this, it's very much going to be short term. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to try to have some fun with it while healing along the way.
I love that. And you don't realize how fun food can be. I mean, I finally got to the point where I'm making my own yogurt. I mean, and I guess we could talk about that. Some people are like, no dairy, no this. I'm like, I I'm making my own fermented yogurt. I enjoy it. I'm
Yeah,
making my
girl.
own sauerkraut.
Love it. I love it.
I've gotten to the point where like I cooking for me was frozen vegetables and getting like a piece of fish or a chicken, and that was my food. And I'm like, that's so boring now.
Yeah. Awesome.
So it is a process, just like the autoimmune healing journey. It is a process. I want to talk about your book, emphasizing healing through diet.
Yeah.
What are the most surprising, effective dietary changes that impact symptoms that you can think of?
I think so. Something that you just mentioned too is like having some fun and trying to make more things at home can make a huge difference. So it's really a quality situation first, of if it's my own homemade yogurt, I tend to do well with it versus maybe a store bought. And that's not to say that everyone needs to do that exactly, but can we look at quality first? I think that's one of the biggest changes right off the bat that can be made. So whether you are growing stuff at home, that could just be an herb garden, like we could start small. I do not have a green thumb. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't have a garden. I wish I was that person. Maybe one day. But, it can start with things like that, going to the farmer's market, looking up farms by you, just starting with quality, because truly what we want to think about is nutrient density. And so local, homegrown, farms, all this kind of stuff is going to be number one when it comes to that. Secondary to that could be going, more organic, at least with things that we know are more heavy on the pesticides. And so you can look that up with, it's called the Dirty Dozen. And so we can look at quality from that standpoint too, of just mitigating a lot of those additives or pesticides or whatever it is that we know can be problematic. And even frozen veggies are great, because a lot of times they're picked, or they should be picked at peak, time for them to be harvested and all that good stuff, and flash frozen. And so sometimes that can be really great, so that maybe something's fresh, but it like came, over months, from wherever it was imported from. And, it's have a huge carbon footprint and all these things. And the nutrient density is just not quite there. So some people think it always has to be fresh or the most expensive. And it's like, that's not really true. Like, if we could go to a farmer's market, we could go frozen and get organic stuff. And that can be great too. And especially if you're someone who worries about, like using it all up in the fridge and it going bad. So that's kind of just the first thing that I want to say anyone can do to just start improving the quality of their foods. And it doesn't have to break the bank. And then of course with the protein side, so grass fed when it comes to our meat. So we want grass fed, grass finished ideally, free roaming, right? Like if it's chicken, poultry, we really want to make sure that it's, good stuff, that they're not just being fed and pumped with corn and soy all day, and that they're able to run around and eat bugs and do all the things that they're needing to do. So free range and all that good stuff. So we want to improve the quality to the best of our ability, to the best of our budget allowing, number one. Number two, when we want to think about things like that we're trying to crowd out, let's not use the word eliminate, but let's talk about crowding things out with the good stuff. Gluten for sure, especially if you are in the US, is problematic to our gut healing, to autoimmune. It's a safe bet that it's something you want to leave out. Okay. That said, there are people that after a lot of healing, as long as they're not celiac, or as long as if they have Hashimoto's, if their antibodies are under control and they want to test something out, similar to like you said about your yogurt, perhaps some organic sourdough. Maybe you get some really good flour that's not from the US. And it's just better and you can make it and you can enjoy it. That's freaking awesome. I hope you can. But it is just that idea of like, when you ask what's the most impactful changes, going gluten-free is going to be a big deal for a lot of people with autoimmune. Dairy, I think if it's high quality dairy, and you've done the eliminations and you've done all that and you're getting into a better place with healing, I say try it. I've been eating A2 dairy for a while now, really good cheese, all the stuff. I've been doing fine with it. And guys, I was born lactose intolerant. Like I was pretty much born like with dairy issues. It was even way earlier than any of my autoimmune stuff. So that was really an interesting turning point for me to be like, wow, the body is pretty cool. Like, right. Like it can heal. It can really do a lot of these things. So, I just want to say that too, of like, test things on your body too. So maybe even if you're not in a place to handle dairy right now, it doesn't mean it will never come back for you. And the poison is always in the dose with everything. So as long as you're not truly allergic or have celiac or something like that, usually it's just about the dose and the quality. And so that's what we need to be mindful about. Other than that, it's so bio-individual. Sometimes people really won't do well with nightshades, especially with arthritis, general inflammation, pain, migraines, things like that. I will tend to see, at least with the spices or the spicier foods like peppers and things, an instant like kind of trigger. And I'll see that a lot in practice. But it doesn't always mean they can't have eggplant or white potato or other nightshades. It doesn't mean it's every single one. So this is where a food journal, tracking, really understanding like, oh, okay, when I have peppers in my omelet, that's what does it. Mm-hmm. And so having that strong understanding while healing and understanding like, okay, this may or may not come back for me, but I have some really good substitutes. I have other stuff. I don't have to go full AIP or fully nuclear on eliminating all these foods. It's just one or two things that in reality, they just don't agree with me. And that's fair. Yeah. That's part of just being a human.
Yeah, that they ain't your sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Your background in nutritional therapy, how do you balance the scientific information with more intuitive connecting with food? How do you do that with yourself and working with individuals?
I think one of the biggest principles of nutritional therapy is bioindividuality. I think literally if I were to go back to lesson 1, that was probably the lesson. So what I so appreciate about having that lens before even learning about the fact that going gluten-free will lower your TPO antibodies or, kind of getting into any of that science is that there's some stuff we can't explain. Plenty of stuff actually that we can't explain. There's some stuff that it's like we shouldn't have to wait for years and years and years of a study, but that you could just see in front of you. You can feel in your body. And so if you are approaching things with the idea of bioindividuality, which just means everyone is unique and everyone is at a unique point in their healing journey. Because Alison 7 years ago really could not have any dairy at all. Not even a tiny, tiny dose. Immediate bloat, immediate zits, just immediate problems, right? But Alison now, same person, but my body has changed a lot. And so that is this uniqueness. And that when we honor that and we say, okay, I'm going to listen to my body. I can listen to data. I can hear what people are saying, but I can also be enough in tune with my body to say, well, but this is fine for me. And actually this other thing is like not so fine for me. So I think when we approach everything like that, that's probably the ultimate rule right there that trumps everything else. That's how we can do it. So I love that question because, sometimes I'll hear from people of like, I heard nightshades were bad for me. So I eliminated all white potatoes. But then I eat sweet potatoes and I don't feel well, but I keep eating them because I heard those were better for you. And I'll say, what do you mean you keep eating them if they don't feel good for you? Your body is giving you an answer, and that has to trump whatever an influencer said yesterday, or whatever that podcast, that you heard yesterday said. So I think that that's always going to be number one. We always have to consider that. We always have to honor the body. And when we approach symptoms, not as nuisances or I'm broken and what did I do wrong? Did I eat something? Like, what did I do? When we let all that go and we instead think symptoms are just my body's way of communicating with me.
Yeah. It's like, how do I listen?
Totally. It has to become, instead of listening to what the guru said or the expert, okay, great. Take in that data if you want. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what is your body saying? That's how we get more in tune. That's where the magic starts to happen, because then you're really living in accordance with your own nature, your own biology. So I think those two things alone, that bioindividuality principle, and then just really saying symptoms are here to actually teach me something. And the sooner I listen, instead of just like, shush body, you don't know what you're talking about. I heard so-and-so say this. The sooner we can listen, the better partnership we're going to have with our own body.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's just so much information out there that it becomes overwhelming and you don't know who to listen to. But I love the idea of really tuning in and listening to, like, hey, I've been ignoring you for quite some time, body.
Amen.
What do you want?
Amen. Right?
And I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, talking about the tune in method. What inspired you to, I mean, I think this is a good point of
Yeah,
talking
it's a good
about this.
segue. Yeah, I only dropped in tune like 20 times right there. I think this is exactly why. So I would say, and maybe you can, maybe this resonates with you, Desiree, but like when I started going along the healing journey and I found functional medicine and I, started going towards this, it was really exciting at first, because it's like, oh my God, finally, like a diagnosis. Finally, I'm validated. Finally, it's like answers and solutions or pathways to finding some kind of solution, labs, things we can run, someone who's not gaslighting me, right? It's really exciting at first. And it is a fabulous tool. Again, right? That word, it's a fabulous tool. But then the pendulum can swing and it can suddenly be extremely overwhelming. Like you said, there is so much information out there. Lots of money spent on labs, lots of money spent on random treat, just like, okay, just try this, inject me with that. Like, I'll go sit in this booth. I'll go do whatever you tell me, because I just want to get better, right? And so we keep doing all these things. And if we're still not feeling better, are we not really in tune with what's going on at that more long game root cause level, right? Because I know in functional medicine, we hear root cause a lot. And yeah, they're trying to find some root causes. But for example, like SIBO, that's not a root cause. Why do you have SIBO? If I can keep asking why, I don't think we're quite at the base of it yet. And so I remember when I was on my healing journey, I had SIBO like 3 times in a year, and I kept being told by everybody, that's the root cause of your Hashimoto's. That was years ago. No, no. What was even creating this environment in my body for the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? What was doing that? And that's what I had to keep digging away at. So through my own healing and trying a lot of stuff, I came to this in tune method that I created through being a nutritional therapy practitioner, through practicing on myself, and then practicing through so many women dealing with very similar issues, autoimmune, gut, hormone related, all this stuff. And that is what our coaching program is, where we have 3 months together and we are working through what are the true foundational issues, like where are the cracks in the foundation of your house, basically. Because when we fill those in, when we zoom out and say, oh yeah, it's not, your diet's fine. Like we need to look at some of these other things. Or yeah, we just need to make a few tweaks to your diet. Like no big deal. We don't need to go full AIP. We don't need to do anything crazy. And we start to really give the body what it needs at that foundational level. Your body will do the heavy lifting. And sure, sometimes you need to do a protocol. Like sometimes, yeah, you got to kill an infection or whatever. And that's great. Again, tools. But what's always going to serve us in the long run is being in tune with our body and really being able to better understand, oh, when my body throws these symptoms, I know root cause to go to here. And I know what levers I can pull very easily, often for free, to get my body a little bit more recalibrated. And then if I need to look at, something a little bit bigger, like I got to run a lab, maybe there's mold in my house, maybe there's this, sure. And then it can actually work because your body's on board. You've listened to what its needs are and you're addressing that day after day, right? Like you're playing that long game. So that's what we really like to say, is that a lot of that beauty and a lot of that healing journey is just going to come in the day-to-day things that we're doing, and it shouldn't be restrictive. It shouldn't be stressful. And it shouldn't just be this magic pill chase. So yeah, that's a bit about that.
Yeah, really learning. I mean, because like I mentioned, we got autoimmune disease because we were ignoring what was really going on. And I love that you're helping people to really listen to their own body, their own individual bio-individuality.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you describe a meal from your plan, your meal prep plan, that encapsulates your philosophy of healing, of joy and flavor? I guess, what is your favorite?
Oh, such a good question. I mean, you know what's so funny, Desiree? I would say when I started all this, when I started my food blog and even up until like the cookbook, I was so hell-bent on recreating like my favorite restaurant kind of foods. And, being from New York City, I used to just go to restaurants and take out all the time because, you have small kitchens over here. You don't cook a lot. And that was kind of my goal, is like, how can I recreate pad thai? How can I recreate, whatever. So a lot of my recipes you'll see are like, oh, this Greek baked ziti dish that I made, paleo and AIP. And I nailed it. Like, people love it. And it's awesome to give people that back. But nowadays, I am a mom of 2 little babies.
Oh, that changes everything.
It changes everything, girl. I held on for a while there, but it's over. I've surrendered. After my second, for sure, like having the one baby, it was a lot. It was jarring. It was completely life-changing, but she was chill. She'd be in the kitchen with me. I could still, get creative and do stuff. But after having my second, it's just become very different. And he's climbing things in the kitchen. He's doing super dangerous things. Even if I like close him out, he's like freaking out trying to get in. They're running around. They're screaming. Anyway, I painted the picture. You get it. It's a little bit chaotic. So, like what you said, a frozen veggie and a protein is peace for me right now. So it's just to kind of say, wherever you are in your life, however you're feeling about food, whether it's going to be a little extra steps and chopping and some, bringing that Martha Stewart to the kitchen, and just like getting in there and recreating your favorites, I've got you covered. Like, just go to foodbymars.com, look on my blog, you'll find a lot of awesome stuff. But I would say nowadays it's like, the quicker, the easier, the better. I'm still going to make it taste good with using just like really good seasonings, and, like coconut aminos is one of our favorites. Like, it's like a soy sauce swap. Yeah, you're like, yep, love those.
I'm trying to figure out, how do they make coconut taste like soy?
I know. I'm not even gonna ask. I'm not even gonna poke the bear. I'm just gonna say it is delicious. It works. The kids love it. So I just, at this point in my life, it's really about like speed, ease, and that's what's truly nourishing to me. So there is a meal that I make religiously, or my husband will make it. We just always have it in rotation at least once a week. And it's just ground pork, a coleslaw package. Okay, so I'm not even chopping the cabbage right now. Like, I am getting the package because it's quicker. And it's like, the green, the red cabbage, and then carrots. And that's like what's in the coleslaw package. So you do that, a pound of like ground pork or whatever. You could do beef, chicken, whatever you want. I just like something with fat because it'll be tastier. Chicken and turkey is too lean. So,
Amen.
Right. It's just a little too lean for me. I'm like, I don't know. So we'll do those. And then we'll either do white rice or cauliflower rice or a mix of the two, whatever. And we just put everything together. It's like, I call it hash. I have this on my site. It's like a 20-minute download. But the full recipe is called egg roll skillet on my blog. And it's really just, you could put garlic, ginger, you could put the coconut aminos, you could put a little fish sauce if you want. You can make it
An
as bare
egg roll
bones.
without the egg roll.
Exactly. It's the inside of an egg roll, basically, and you can put it over your favorite. You could put it on a bed of greens, rice, cauliflower rice, like I said, like whatever. And we just always have some of that in the fridge because it's so easy. It's delicious. The leftovers are delicious. You can switch it up if you want, put it over sweet potato, put it whatever. It comes back to life quite nicely. So that is one of our favorites, and that meal to me is like comfort. So that's the dish.
That sounds good. I'm
Thanks,
going to have
girl.
to look that up and download it for sure.
You will love it. And it's just so fast. It's just no brainer.
I love that. I mean, I mentioned how I'm doing yogurt now, but it's just, I wanted to start experimenting, but I love like, hey, I can make something really quick, 20, 30 minutes, little prep. I mean, we're always so busy. So
Yeah.
whatever works for you. And I want to get to mindset, but before we get into mindset, can you talk about, for those people that have autoimmune disease and they are just frustrated because they keep on getting flare-ups, what strategies do you recommend to help with that, with setbacks to your diet?
Yeah. With setbacks, as long as you don't have any histamine intolerance, I love to just say, like, for example, if I'm having any kind of a flare up, I immediately am defrosting a lot of bone broth because I know if I just start incorporating like 2 to 3 cups a day for just a couple of days, honestly, it's going to help me get back on my feet. So, for example, because I have the small kids, if I haven't slept, like, all right, already the sleep's not quite there. I'm just going to throw that out there. But if it's like real bad, like someone's teething and someone's having nightmares, it's like, and it's just like a perfect storm. If it's one of those weeks, it's like, oof, I'm feeling it. It is one of those things, right? We know with autoimmune that we can just like, okay, or I travel, let's say we traveled and, we're trying to get back. It can be as simple as like, okay, get back to your nourishing foods, right? Like if you were out or if, you've been doing takeout or sugar crept in over the holidays or whatever, obviously that's going to be number one. So like get back to your home cooking and then start implementing some bone broth. If you do have histamine issues and you just cannot with bone broth, it's really going to be okay. Get back to your foods. Make sure you're obviously well hydrated, which I want everyone to be doing, and really sleep, guys. Like just go to sleep. Sometimes we really just need to look at it and say, okay, if I need to heal, what mode do I need to be in to heal? And it is absolutely that parasympathetic sleep, rest, digest state. So go to bed early, take naps, like give your body what it needs versus like, I got to power through and I'm going to, be upset or make my body wrong for this flare up. You'll honestly bounce back a lot quicker when you just answer. You just answer the call and do what the body's asking. That's what we tend to see. So it's really very, very simple.
Awesome. Thank you. Sleep mode. I like that, how you put that. Go in sleep mode.
Literally, like if your phone's acting up, you're going to go shut it off and like plug it in or something. But we're like, what do I do? What's the magic pill? And it's like, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Totally.
You mentioned mindset. We were talking about mindset before we press record. So how is mindset so important for you in working with diet or nutrition in people?
Mindset is so important because it just feels like it shapes everything. It's our perception, it's the relationship to what we're even doing. So, a lot of people want to talk about habit building and the best way for, to do habits, right? And all these things. And it's like, before you even get there, do we feel empowered to be doing these things? If you're asked to shift your diet or go to sleep earlier or whatever, is it met with a ton of resistance and like, oh, I have to do this because my stupid body's broken? Or do you know what I mean? And like, so-and-so doesn't have to do this. Like, right? My partner doesn't have to do this, or I didn't used to have to do, like we're kind of like looking at all these reasons why it's so unfair that right away, like, it really doesn't matter what diet you do, doesn't matter what supplement you do, I'm not going to go well. And so mindset to me is going to inform how well any of the tools you actually try go. And if you're able to be consistent with them, because consistency is going to be number one here. We're dealing with a chronic illness. So we've got to put in the like chronic daily steps or reps, right? We were talking about Dr. Emily Kivert and working out in reps and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's going to 100% be a long game play here. And I know that's not sexy and that's not what sells and that's not what we want in the moment when we're feeling really crummy, but that's what's going to do it. And so our mindset really is going to inform, can we stay in it? And do we feel empowered by this of like, I get to nourish my body today. I get to try these new things. I get to get support, or I have to, you know, that's it right there, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with, if you are going to try to always push through, or, I mean, that's what got you sick in the first place. So if you really see it as a growth mindset, an open, experimental, let's just try this out, instead of like, I need to. I'm like, that's so just trying to put a square peg in a round circle, that doesn't help.
So true.
But thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Is there anything you want to address before we part ways?
I love so much of what we covered. No, I think if there's anything I can underline, it is what we kind of just said. It is just looking at that daily. Is this I get to take care of myself and that I get to learn lessons from this healing journey, or am I going to make it suck? I remember being a little girl and my dad kind of telling me this of like, you're kind of dealt, cards are dealt. It's up to you how you want it to go. How do you want to deal with it? You can pass the time nicely, having fun, maybe learning some lessons, maybe playing some games, or you can sit there and watch the water boil in the pot and just be miserable about it. Like, it is always, it feels like with autoimmune sometimes, like, why? And, it's so much out of my control and I'm trying so hard. It's blah, blah, blah. It's like, look at the thing maybe you're not focusing on. And oftentimes it's just us. It's our perception. How are we perceiving this? Because I think everything changed for me when I flipped that script and I realized my body's not broken. I'm not here rushing to fix a problem. This is here for me. So it's about time I start learning why. And to your point, so many of us get sick because of these behaviors. Like, we're ignoring our body. We're totally out of tune. We're not sleeping well. We're not eating well. And it's like, you're sitting here, your body's giving you this opportunity to learn it now. So let's do that. Let's do that in a good way, in a way of I get to, an empowering way. And yeah, it's not going to be easy, but the second you decide this is happening for you, and it can be like one of the greatest journeys you ever embark on that makes you just a better person and makes your life better, like it did for me, then it will be. It will be, and it will take off. So that's probably my sign off.
I love it. Guess who I just connected with, warriors? Leap Cure. Leap what? Leap Cure. Leap Cure connects patients with clinical trials to make research more equitable and efficient. Listen to their latest clinical trial.
If you've been diagnosed with thyroid eye disease and are seeking potential new treatment options, you might be interested in the LIDS clinical trial. If you're 18 and over, have a diagnosis of Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, and are interested in potentially participating in research, you can fill out a short questionnaire at lpcur.com/TED. You'll be connected with someone on the team to determine whether it might be a good fit for you. Check your eligibility and learn more at lpcur.com/TED.